What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's a Fantasy Alarm live stream. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me here, of course, Craig Mish. Time to talk Major League Baseball, fantasy baseball. And as you can tell by the title of today's live stream, if it's broke, fix it. It's time to do some maintenance on your teams. And Craig, I got to tell you, man, the first place that I think we need to start today is the trouble that we're dealing with over at third base right now. We lost Evan Longoria to a fracture in his hand or finger. Miguel Sano sent down to High A Fort Myers yesterday, and Matt Chapman, Oakland A's third baseman, now sitting with a bruised hand. And I don't even know where to look. This is death here. A position that's primarily used for power production. Craig, I don't even see any of it sitting on the waiver wire.
Yeah, and when you think about fantasy, you think about position scarcity. And at third base, I don't think there really necessarily is position scarcity, but if you're looking at it from the point of view of you having one of these three players, you make a good point is where do you go? Because all of a sudden, you and potentially two other owners in a 12 or 15 team league are going to have to chase down this position. Now, if you're playing in a 10-team league, I don't think this really affects you at all, and maybe not even in a points league where you can move things around. And truth be told, all three of these players were probably slotted in your corner infield spot or your utility spot. But if you're headed toward the weekend and you can't make moves until Sunday, you have to take a look at the kind of budget that the people who you are playing against in that need those same sort of players, because you guys are all going to be targeting the same sort of players. And especially for Longoria and Sano, this is not going to be a weekend type injury. Chapman, there's a chance that he could come back next week unless we hear something different and he goes on the DL. And I think that's a possibility also. So when you look out on the waiver wire in 12-team leagues at third base, is Duffy a guy that's out there on Tampa Bay that's being picked up in a lot of leagues, potentially on the waiver wire? Jamer Candelario has been on and off teams all season long. He could be another option for you. But the real key when you're playing in 12 or 15-team leagues, and forget about American League or NL only because you know you're not going to find anybody. You're just done. What you have to do is you have to look at the FAB budget, if you play with FAB budget, see how much the guy has who has Sano, if you have Longoria, the guy who has Chapman also, and kind of focus your bidding along with that. I think obviously the big story in fantasy, Howard, is Miguel Sano, who a lot of people drafted in their fantasy leagues as kind of like a later round type sleeper with some upside. And it looks like at this point, with him going to single A, one or two things can happen. Either this can be a quick fix, they feel he's ready and they call him right back up, or they literally keep him down there until maybe the All-Star break, which is a month from now, and then you're losing all kinds of power production. Personally, for me, going into the season, I didn't draft Sano anywhere. It wasn't really performance. It was just kind of like the injury was worried me a little bit because he missed most of August and September last year. I did think that he'd come back to hit 25 or 30 home runs, but now it's really uncertain. And in terms of who will play third base for the Twins, until Polanco comes back off the suspension list, they really don't have any great options. Oakland, I see kind of the same way. For San Francisco, Brandon Belt is going to come back tonight and join the Giants. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but that's happening. And then Alan Hansen, I think, has a chance to play some third and maybe platoon a little bit with Pablo Sandoval. But those aren't great names, Howard, sitting out there on the waiver wire. And in third base, surprisingly enough, outside of the top few guys, isn't a position of great strength.
No, it really isn't. It's very, very top heavy as far as the position goes. I think out of all those names that you just mentioned there, to me, I don't know. I guess Matt Duffy is probably the best guy that you can find there, only because he's batting leadoff a good amount of the time right now. So, if he's going to continue to bat leadoff, then sure, why not? But yeah, no, this is not a very good situation here at all. I forgot about Alan Hansen, about his ability to move over and play third. I was really fearful of the fact that we were going to end up with a whole smattering of Pablo Sandoval. And that panda resurgence there that nobody wants to hear. So
right. I think it'll be a split between those two, but especially when you get into later inning situations, I think Hansen, for his running ability and probably his defense, would take over for Sandoval in a lot of double switches and play in the 7th, 8th inning, even get an extra at bat. So If he's sitting out there on a waiver wire in a deeper league, sure. But Howard, in playing fantasy a long time, we always see things that never happen. And honestly, we've been at this a long time. I can't recall the last time 3 starting third basemen in fantasy all were removed for one reason or another within 24 hours. That's a big number. 1 guy, 2 guys, sure. I mean, these are 3 owned players in most 12-team leagues. So, you really have to kind of manage that. And I don't see a ton in terms of the minors ready to come up either. So you'll have to really dive in a little bit harder this weekend. And hopefully, if you only had these guys slotted at corner infield, then maybe you can grab a first baseman and put them in for them. But I think that you're looking at 2 extended absences for sure, and maybe a third depending on Chapman's results from his diagnosis.
Yeah, there's really not a lot at first base either. I mean, there's really not a lot out there available to you. I mean, if I'm just looking at this, list of current third basemen here who could be, potential pickups here. I mean, maybe Yolmer Sanchez. I mean,
he's a name that's out there in a lot of
leagues.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're talking about a 12-team league, I'm sure you got like Yolmer Sanchez. Colin Moran is probably available in a lot of leagues as well. I mean, the Pirates third baseman, I mean, I think he's batting over his head, hitting 270, but there is no real power there. He hasn't at least shown much with only 5 home runs. Maybe Yangervis Solarte.
I think Solarte, I looked at him. I think he's owned in every league by now.
Is he? I mean,
yeah, I think so. 12 home runs, right?
For Solarte?
I think so.
Does he have 12? Yeah, he does. He's 12 home runs, 37 ribbies. Where does that come from? This is unbelievable.
Like
this has got to be. This is like the weirdest. Yeah, right, Muncy. This has got to be the weirdest fantasy year I've been a part of in a very long time. We're seeing. I mean, the injuries are rampant again. We're just seeing a whole mess of things going on here right now. Where a lot of surprises, like a lot of surprises. I don't know. Maybe Michael Franco got cut in your league and he's
that's not even a great name
awesome.
Too.
No, it's not. It's a horrible name.
Not. You know what I said today on the radio show, which I think summarizes a lot, which to me, Howard, anybody who says on any live stream or social media or any radio show that they know or they guarantee something can happen or not happen, or like I told you, then you should really start to evaluate who you're getting advice from. And I'll tell you why. I mean, a guy like Vincent Velasquez, who gives up 10 earned runs his last time out and then throws a no-hitter, 6 1/3 or 6 2/3. I mean, that summarizes the fantasy game. We can only provide as much information as we think that we know, but so many things are going to happen that you don't know, and it's really troublesome to see people out there that say, there's no way that this is going to happen, or I guarantee this can't happen. Or, I mean, it's one thing to say it with conviction for the idea that you're doing a radio show, or you're trying to entertain, or you're trying to
just take a stance. Take a stance.
That's fine, but like, there's no guarantees of anything. Like, there was no guarantees Juan Soto will hit 35 home runs, and there was no guarantee he'd hit none. We don't know the answers to a lot of these things. You can only try and predict it. But I thought Velasquez's back-to-back starts summarized the fantasy season right there. 10 earned runs one start, 6 1/3 no-hit the next one. I thought he was going to get pummeled again yesterday. I owned him in a league, but it just shows you that we don't know the answers to it. We can only try and put you in the position to win and help you with these call-ups before they happen, which is another big key to playing the game. If we can get you in on that player a couple of weeks before they come up and it hits, that's where the value lies.
Yeah, and even then, even talking about call-ups and when we expect them to come up, I mean, it's been a huge crapshoot. I remember it was, like a month ago, we were talking about Sandy Alcantara and when he was going to arrive, and that's not happening. Everybody's clamoring for Austin Riley. I mean, now he's on the 7-day DL, and he's probably going to be out for a little while. But I mean, people are just it's this constant, rotation of players that, I mean, yeah, we do the best we can. We try. I mean, listen, I think our guesses, our educated guesses, are a lot better than what mainstream people are doing. But,
for sure.
I mean,
but we really don't know. And I'm all in on every player that comes up because you have to take the chance at low risk or no risk. You have to do it. But a good example of what you're talking about is Willie Calhoun. Remember, he was in the top 5 of everybody's prospect list going into the season. I don't think
Yeah.
you'll see him until September. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. got hurt. I mean, we're in the same boat with him too. But again, you take your shots on all of these young kids that are coming up, even if they're unheralded or untouted, and you see what happens. Another good example of that is Jeffrey Ramirez, who got called up by the Baltimore Orioles this week. He made a start. He showed better stuff than I think any of the Orioles starting pitchers have shown, and he may be good or he may not. But you pick him up for $1, you see what happens. If he ends up being good, you throw him in there, and then if not, I mean, last year the very worst pitcher in fantasy and reality was Dylan Covey on the White Sox. He's 3-0 with a 1.5 ERA in his last 5 starts.
I mean, if that doesn't tell you right now what kind of a crapshoot we're dealing with here, I mean, it's unbelievable. Jonathan Loaiziga making the jump from Double-A to the majors today for the New York Yankees. You know, people are like, well, you know, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? Like, here's my feeling about it also. Like, yes, I think that you need to take a shot on these kids, and I think that you need to be aggressive with your fab budget right now because every player counts. And the last thing you want to do is just get caught with, you know, a rash of injuries and nobody on your waiver wire to do. But the problem is here, and I think that this is one of the fundamental things that's wrong with fantasy owners today, is that they're continuously looking for Mr. Right instead of Mr. Right now. I mean, there are numerous questions that I'm answering from people. They're like, all right, well, if the Yankees call up Loaiziga, you know, how long is he going to stay for? What do you mean, how long is he going to stay for? If he gets bombed in his outing today, he's not staying. Like, that's not going to happen there.
That's a fact.
If he pitches like a champ today, but Masahiro Tanaka's like, yeah, no, I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm going to be able to, make my next start, or just push me back in the rotation and push everybody up with the off day, then Loaiziga's going down anyway. Like, that's the problem here right now.
Maybe. That's not a guarantee, but I get what you're saying.
No, it's not a guarantee, but, again, the Yankees have certain investments made in a lot of pitchers, and, Domingo Germán wasn't terrible in his last outing. I think the Yankees are more inclined to give Domingo Germán continuous shots there. Now,
I think you missed the name that they would replace him with. I think that there's a chance. I think Sonny Gray's on the way out.
You do think so? Yeah. No, I mean, listen, I didn't forget that name. I've been trying to block it out. And listen, well, because I sat there during the preseason and I was like, all right, Sonny Gray is now a year and a half removed from the injury. He's got that ground ball rate, and that neutralizes the short porch in Yankee Stadium, and he's been garbage. He's using this cutter instead of his four-seam fastball, and the cutter's not cutting, and people are hitting it, and there's a lot more hard contact, and it's all line drives. It's not even ground balls for him. So, yeah, I mean, listen, do I think that the Yankees are going to pull the plug on Sonny Gray? It is possible. However, the Yankees, I think, are just more inclined to seeing, who's available via trade than really turning around and saying, well, I'm going to invest in Justice Sheffield or Jonathan Loaiziga. We're going to have to just, like, those guys to me right now for the Yankees and for what their expectations are more wait and see than they are, oh, he's getting the call up, which, means that if he pitches really well, then he's going to stay. This isn't the Baltimore Orioles. This isn't, the Miami Marlins. If a guy gets bombed or has some struggles or whatever, the Yankees are going to immediately look to see who's not going to get bombed. So,
and the other thing, too, is that the Yankees, in terms of fantasy and fab budget and ad drop, are actually a really bad example as to how the standard works because, as you know, if he goes out and throws 7 shutout innings tonight, he's going for $200 in fab budget on Sunday because he's a Yankee. Whereas if Bieber would have come up and done that, or Freddie Peralta came up and did that, no one broke the bank on those guys. There's a lot of Yankee bias. There's a lot of pinstripe bias when it comes to fab. So, maybe not the best example of guys. Like a good example of a guy who can come up and pitch well and potentially stay is Bieber on Cleveland, Nick Kingham on Pittsburgh, Plutko on Cleveland. Like, those are the kind of guys that if they have a good start, you may want to hit the fab budget because it is June 15th and invest some money. you're not going to get Luis Sega if he pitches well tonight. Like, you're done. Like, someone is going to have more money than you in a fantasy league, and someone's going to be a big Yankee fan or from New York. I mean, this is just how it works, man. Like, those guys go for so much money. Gleyber Torres, like, if you didn't go so deep on him, you had no shot at getting him.
Yeah, but no. You can't use Gleyber Torres as an example here. Gleyber Torres has got the hit tool, the pedigree, all the hype that came up when he was with Chicago.
What did he do in the minors?
When the Yankees acquired him, what did he do in the minors? Listen, we've seen it a million times right now, right? You hit like 10 home runs in the minors over a minor league season. You come up and you pop 25 to 30 in the majors. That's just the way it is. It's the natural progression right now. I mean, everybody's a power hitter.
I guess so, but he didn't do it in the.
You know what? If Torres came up as a Cub, he would have the same hype and the same bias. And yeah, you know what? Listen, I look at my leagues also, and I look at what Plutko went for. I look at what Shane Bieber went for. These guys went for decent money. Freddie Peralta, Fernando Romero. The thing is that people right now, they're taking any and every rookie who's coming up, and they're throwing big bucks on him to lock him down. Like, it's not just – I get what you're saying as far as Yankee bias. I totally understand that. But we also know that Yankee Stadium is not a place that you want you want to invest heavily in pitchers, especially if you're not dealing with like a ground ball specialist and you're dealing with the potential of a guy getting lit up. So I understand, and maybe it's just because I'm a Yankees fan that I'm kind of talking against that bias, but I think you get that with the Cubs, with the Red Sox, you get it with the Dodgers, you get it with Cleveland as well. So
I mean, I think that you hit for a couple of good teams, but no, I don't think that applies.
Because you live in like desolate Marlins.
Doesn't apply to Cleveland. Do you think Cleveland prospects get as much hype as Yankee prospects? Come on, man.
Are you kidding? Listen, depends on what media you're watching here. Like, I mean, you know what? If you're looking at ESPN, yes, okay, fine. ESPN's garbage. We know it's garbage.
Most fantasy leagues you play in, a Yankee player, and you put a Yankee player and an Indians player next to each other with the same skill set, the Yankee player, even in Experts League, is going to go for more money, man. It's just a fact. You play in the same leagues that I do with Glenn Colton and the Wolfman. You think Glenn Colton's going to let a Yankee guy go by that comes up from the minor leagues? No way. And he'll admit to you that, too, that he's a Yankees fan. He's going to put a little bit more at stake. That's who we're playing with in these leagues.
Yeah. Yes, of course we are, but I'm also playing with Cleveland Indians fans. I'm also playing with San Francisco Giants fans. I'm playing with Oakland A's fans.
But there's no hype like the Yankees hype, man. Come on. You're off on this, man. Kevin Moss, like these guys get hyped like nobody's business. Hensley Mullins, and they're not even that good.
Okay, I mean, listen, if you want to go back to the 80s, yes, we can go back to the 80s and the early 90s.
Can you do that with the Cleveland
and talk about that.
No, you can't do that. The Yankees
you know what? I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could. Francisco Lindor. Francisco Lindor had amazing hype, though. Like, amazing hype, and he wasn't even a strong hitter in the minors. You want to talk about a guy who wasn't hitting in the minors, who came up, who got like
a lot of hype last year? No way. Or 2 years ago when he came up, nobody thought that he was going to be the hitter that he is.
I'm done with you. That's it.
I'm serious. I'm serious. Did Austin Meadows come up with a lot of hype?
Yeah, definitely Austin Meadows came up with hype.
No, he didn't. Stop.
Of course he did.
He wasn't hitting anything in the minors. You got him for nothing.
Listen, I don't know who you're talking to on a regular basis here, but let's face facts. Every single youngster is coming back with major hype to him.
Like
every single kid. Every single kid. Every league that I'm in, Craig, every rookie.
Put it on the poll. Put a poll out there in fantasy. Say, do Yankees prospects tend to get more hype than other prospects in fantasy baseball? Yes, no.
Where am I putting that poll up on Twitter?
Yeah, or put it here. I mean, I don't know. We like whoever's watching, but you can put it on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I got some people watching. I got Cade Peterson, Keith Giordano, James McGriff, Bendo Bruce. What do you say, guys?
Ask Keith Giordano. I'll value. Where's Keith from? Where's he from?
He's from Connecticut, and he and I know each other from New York.
Okay, perfect. I want Keith to answer the question for me right now on social media. Do Yankees prospects go for more money based on hype on your fab budget on a weekly basis than others because they play for the Yankees? That's all I want to know. And we'll start with him, and then we'll move from there.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean,
Is that fair? Is that fair?
let me
And I'm
await.
throwing Keith out there just because I know he watches our live stream a lot. By the way,
I
as you
will.
can see, my garage is up again. I'm sorry for that. I can't, there's nothing.
Well, it's listen. You know what? A bright shining light
That's
smiling
how
on
I
you.
remembered Sonny Gray's name because it went right up. I was like, Sonny Gray. What does John and Pemba think?
I don't know. Oh, yeah, I got a no from Keith here.
He says no. Okay.
Acuna was huge hype. Albies. I got a slightly maybe from Cade Peterson. Big timer. He says this season alone, Soto and Acuna. I got Mendo Bruce saying I'm from SF. Yankees have a little more value because of the park.
No,
Okay.
I'm not talking about the park. I'm talking about the hype.
James McGriff from Ohio says that Craig is correct.
What did Keith?
So there
say
you go.
again?
You got the big swing state, buddy. You got Ohio.
What did Keith say? Tell me what Keith said.
He said no.
Just no, and that's it.
Said no. Acuna was huge hype.
Okay, Acuna was the #1 prospect in all of baseball. Okay, so that's a bad example, Keith. Sorry.
Even Brinson had huge hype.
Brinson did not have huge hype.
What are you talking about?
He did not have an average draft position. What was Brinson's average draft position?
Did you get hit in the head with like a baseball bat? Did like a foul ball like nick you on the forehead or something? Did you get kicked by a mule, Craig?
Did Francisco Mejia have huge hype?
Oh, of course he's had huge hype. Do you know how many people are asking me about Francisco Mejia? That's ridiculous, dude. That's ridiculous.
You know what? There will come a week where we'll have a Yankee player versus. Okay, so I'm praying for this guy to pitch well tonight. The Yankee pitcher, Luis Siga, whatever his name is.
But if he just pitches average?
Well, we won't know the answer to that. Is there any other pitcher that's out there on the waiver wire this week that could be picked up?
Like a youngster, somebody to hype.
We'll see the results next Tuesday. Here's what I'll guarantee: if Luis Siga goes out there tonight and throws 7 innings of 2-run ball, he'll go for more money in fab budget, percentage-wise, of what people have left than any pitcher in fantasy so far this season. Any off one starter.
Any fantasy starter this season.
Any #1.
Okay. All right. I'll take a look at that. We got to go percentage-wise, definitely here.
Yeah, because not a lot of people have money left. But I'll say percentage-wise.
But for the same token, you're not spending as strong a percentage in the beginning of the season as you are right now because you have less money and you know that you need to make a bigger bid in order to land somebody.
Let's just see how it plays out. That's the only way that we're going to be able to determine it. I think that we're smart enough, or at least I'm smart enough to know that we'll be able to determine it next week.
Okay.
You just admitted that I was smart enough and you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, sorry, I was reading everybody's comments here.
Read them off. What do they say?
Craig, go F yourself. Craig Mish is stupid.
Yeah.
Craig Mish doesn't know what he's talking about. Craig Mish is ugly.
Well, that might take a little exception to.
Yeah. Oh, Blake Snell hype. Keith Giordano says Blake Snell got hype. Right. Oh, how about let's talk about that. How about the hype over the years of every Rays prospect from Delman Young to Elijah Dukes to Rocco Baldelli? I mean, sure, we can blame Jason Collette for 98% of the hype.
You gave one name out of the 3 that was hyped.
What are you talking about? Who?
Elijah Dukes was not a hype name. Stop it.
What are you talking about? Elijah Dukes was not a hype name.
No, stop it with Elijah Dukes. No.
He was definitely a hype name.
No, he was not. No, he was
Delman Young was a super hype name as well.
Absolutely hype name and #1 prospect in baseball. And
Rocco Baldelli.
Rocco Baldelli was a good player.
Was he?
Yes.
What'd he do?
He was good for like 3 years. Really good.
Really good?
Yes.
Like really good. Like how good is really good?
Like in a 12-team league, he was your #3 outfielder in fantasy.
Gimme. I'm going to his stat page right now. Oh, look, I gotta dust off the cobwebs off of Rocco Baldelli's page. Look at that.
Good.
Okay, so for 3 years, Rocco Baldelli was really good. His rookie year, he had 11 home runs and 27 stolen bases.
Really good.
In 2000, yeah, really good.
27
Really good.
steals?
In 2003, dude?
I don't know. What were the steals, though? We're going to be digging in stats all day, man.
All day long. Listen, I will go all day long on this one.
We'll be here till 1:30.
Seriously. So Baldelli then the second year, 16 home runs, 17 stolen bases. Power up, speed down.
Still a number 12-team league. He's a number 3 starter.
Then in 2006, because he didn't play in 2005. Why? Because who's creeping? Is that Hayes?
Close the
door. That Hayes? Oh no! Come on! Is that Hayes? Where's Hayes?
I don't know who it was. The Hayes is getting ready. We're going to go see The Incredibles in an hour. So.
Ooh, I like that. Had a nice crush on Elastigirl. She was awesome.
Oh, did you? Yeah, we're going at 1:30. So, what about Baldelli's third year? Did I got 2 years so far? Did I get the third?
16 home runs, 10 stolen bases.
What did he hit that year?
302.
Money in the Bank. 3 years of Rocco Baldelli.
Money in the Bank. It was 387 plate appearances, dude.
He got hurt.
Oh, there's a surprise, right? He got hurt. Oh my God, no way.
He had some injury past, and I think then it started to decline after that.
Yeah, the dude was made. You think? Oh, I got John and Pemba screaming out that he's got a disease. Yeah, you know
nice job, Howard. Nice job. He's right. He's had to retire early. Yeah.
Oh, poor baby. I'm sorry. Yeah, listen. You know what? In the New York Post, I turned around and said something about Stephen Piscotty and how you got to cut Stephen Piscotty because he's a complete bust. And I cited the fact that he's got like emotional stuff going on. That's it. Now Hayes can't watch the live stream. All right, let's move on. It's all over now. But you know what? Actually, this is a good segue into some of the busts that we're dealing with this year, and a lot of guys who have just been insane disappointments this year. Who I think you got to. I mean, you asked the question here of is there a date? When, is it too soon to determine who's a fantasy bust and who's not? I don't think there's a specific date. I think we can pretty much tell right now here on June 15th who we've got confidence in and who we don't.
Yeah, I think you can. It's a good question at this point because sitting here on June 15th, what you have to ask yourself is for players that are struggling and have had bad years, have they already derailed your fantasy team and you can't wait any longer for? Because the idea and the notion that, you have to be patient and you have to wait for their numbers to come in the second half of the season, you may have had to adjust and trade for a player because you're falling so far behind in the standings. So I do think it's fair at this point. We are, I think, are we over 40% of the season? I think we're almost at 50%. We're getting there. I think you look at your team, and if the guy has been bad all season long and you've had to adjust and make trades to compensate for that player's struggles, I think it is safe to call a player a fantasy bust. There are some players that have now shown finally some signs of life at this point. Goldschmidt's a great example of that. No longer a fantasy bust. He's doing exactly what he was supposed to, but you missed the first couple of months. The question is, did you, after the first couple of months, have to adjust your team because of his struggles? So, last year I was down that road with a lot of different players. One of them was Buxton. We're back down that road this year. Margot was the same thing last year, as the same thing this year. He struggled. We'll have to wait to see what he does in the second half also.
Yeah. Well, so who are we giving up on? I literally, on the air yesterday, and in my article in the New York Post, I rattled off a bunch of names. And Piscotty was one. I don't see him recovering at all.
I would agree.
Kipnis, he's done.
I would agree. Yep.
Addison Russell, bye-bye.
Addison Russell, I think, will get traded and needs a new change of scenery. I wouldn't write his story off completely. I'd still have some interest there in another place. But I think he needs to get out of Chicago. It just didn't work. It hasn't worked.
Right, that whole winning culture of the Cubs right now is it's terrible. It's
for whatever reason for him, it hasn't worked. He needs to get out of there.
Who else do I got? Now here's a pair of guys who I am not ready to completely write off right now, but they are not doing what I thought they were going to do, and so it's been very tough for me. to deal with. Number one is Jonathan Schoop. Number two is Trey
Tough year.
Mancini. Now,
The good names. Those are really good names. Yeah,
you know,
Mancini, I talked about this morning on the morning show, and asked Adam Ronis, is he going to be a fantasy bust this season? The answer was yes. I mean, I don't see it, Howard. I don't see any way he comes close to those numbers last year. I'm a Mancini owner in one league, and I have him benched, but it's a horrendous environment right now. They're losing virtually every day, and they've used them leadoff, they've used them third, they've used them sixth. It's just maybe what we saw last year was, just a great rookie season, and that's it. It's definitely possible at this point.
well, I mean, I think the losing culture that's growing rapidly, even more so in Baltimore right now, is having a huge negative impact. The fact that Chris Davis is still in that lineup is just sucking that team dry right now. I mean, it's just awful what he's doing. Schoop had the injury and hasn't bounced back fully from it. He hasn't gotten into any kind of a rhythm there. Mancini hasn't either. I mean, it's got to be tough on these guys knowing that your starting rotation is going to give up 6-7 runs a game as well. And I think that
Right.
that's, that to me is one of the things that's really contributing, because listen, I looked at Scope's numbers and I broke him down in a number of different articles and on the air. And I was really, I thought at worst, he was just going to kind of plateau from where he was last year. And that just hasn't happened. Now, again, I'm not ready to write either guy off, because I do like the skill set of both. And I think that if there can be any sort of a turnaround in Baltimore whatsoever, that we could, hopefully end up with some sort of a boost from these guys. But I mean, it's definitely tough. Yeah, like a couple of pitchers here. Who's the number one pitching bust of the season, Craig?
The number one pitching bust based on draft pick, or what is the criteria?
However you want to deem it a bust. How about a guy who's just destroying your team right now with zero shot of turning it around?
With no shot of turning it around. You see, Luis Castillo has been a bust, but I still think there's a shot of him turning it around. I mean, Kershaw's been hurt, man. Does that count? Is that, I mean, are we going that high? Strasburg is now hurt. Samardzija.
Oh, Samardzija, yeah, that's bad. Oh, I didn't even put him down there on my list there. I was
Yes.
thinking Tyler Chatwood, but
He has, but you know what? He's been very lucky because of those walks have not scored for some reason. So he has not been a complete bust. He's been bad, but he hasn't derailed your team. I don't think Chatwood has derailed your team.
he's put you behind the eight ball a little bit, I think. As far as drafting him and starting him for a while, let him go a couple of consecutive starts and hope that he works himself out of it. Like, that's always the thing, is that, people sit there in a bad start, they take the guy out, then he has a good start, and they're like, oh, okay, let me put him back in, and then he gets bombed again.
Right. Okay.
So
well,
now you've
put
double
it this way.
whammied yourself here.
Put it this way: Chris Archer,
Mm.
Marcus Stroman, both way worse than Tyler Chatwood.
Yeah, okay. Well, because you invested much more in those guys.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't sit here, I mean, injuries happen to everybody. Yes, I think that you should have been able to predict Kershaw's back issues because of what's been going on there. But no, I don't think, like, something with Archer and Stroman. I mean, Stroman's had the shoulder issue there. So I'm just
But he was really bad even when he pitched too, So
he was. I mean, the shoulder's been nagging on him like a whole mess of time there. I'm looking for Chatwood's overall totals here. Yeah, I mean, the 4.12 ERA isn't a killer. The 1.75 WHIP, on the other hand, that's a killer.
it's horrible. But you know what? All things being equal, he's been a bust, but he hasn't annihilated your team like those other names that I mentioned, I don't think.
All right, so who else? Who else out there? Who else do you just want to grab by the neck and just be like, you screwed me?
I mean, Robbie Ray's going to come back, and but for what you've got nothing from him. But for me, Howard, the busts are the ones that like Chris Davis, where if you had him in your lineup every day and you just kept driving him into the ground, that's really what speaks more bust than me. It's easy to go to Gossman, obviously, again this year. He's been
Oh, why people keep going
Good
back
bat.
to that well? Why do people do that? Answer me that one, people. Why do
No idea.
people believe in Kevin Gossman? I don't get that. I don't get that. Oh, Jeff Groten over on YouTube just said that about Gossman. Big timers complaining about Schoop. All right, so nothing to do. 0123 says Bryce Harper is killing fantasy teams. Dozier too. I see that's those are statements that I completely disagree with because 19 home runs from Bryce Harper. Come on, that's not killing
Yeah,
anybody's
but
fantasy.
Dozier hasn't been good though.
Is the 220 average lousy? Yeah, of course the 220 average is lousy, and that's a problem for you there. Um, yeah, Dozier's power has not been where it should be.
Right. Harper. Ask yourself this: if Harper in an average league, first of all, in an on-base league, Harper's great, but he's a hyped player. I mean, that's all there is to it. Bryce Harper was drafted in the second round, and Oakland's Chris Davis was drafted in the sixth round, and they're the same player. It's a fact.
For right now, yes,
And will always be.
You don't see Bryce Harper picking up that batting average at all?
20 points, 30 points, sure. He'll bat 250, 260.
Okay.
Yeah. And so will Chris Davis.
240, 250 maybe for
Probably.
Davis.
You know what Chris Davis batted last year of Oakland?
Like 220 or something like
247.
That. Did he bat 247?
And the year before?
247?
And the year before?
Was it 247, Craig?
And this year?
No way.
Yeah.
Come on. Really? Now that's as consistent as you can get. No wonder Lore Michaels is all up in this dude. Yeah, look at that. 247. Oh, look at that. Yeah, it was down in 2014 when he was with the Brewers. It was only 244.
It's amazing, right?
That's amazingly
I love Chris
consistent
Davis.
right there.
I have him too.
That is amazingly consistent right there. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me sift through, see if I got any other questions. Not counting injury, Dallas Keuchel. Cade Peterson saying Dallas Keuchel's been a bit of a bust.
I agree.
I agree with that one too. I mean, I took Keuchel. I mean, I probably was able to get him in like the 5th round, 6th round. But yeah,
I thought that Astros offense. See what's happened with the Astros in the first half. Now they've been on fire hitting the ball. But I thought the Astros pitching would be good, but the hitting would be great. The hitting has been okay, and the pitching's been phenomenal. So because of that hasn't helped Keuchel because they haven't hit for him at all. And you would think even with an ERA of 4 that Keuchel would still have 8 wins right now. So it's been a little surprise.
Yeah. Nothing to do. 123 says, but I spent a 1st-round pick for him. Yeah, you spent a 1st-round pick for him. People spent a 3rd-round pick for for Chris Davis. I mean, you're still getting production out of him. I'm not going to say that he's killing fantasy teams. I just can't say that Bryce Harper he's not killing.
You know who's killing fantasy teams? Rougned Odor has killed your fantasy teams. Oh my God,
that dude's just atrocious. Yeah, we talked to John Daniels on Monday. Oh, we talked about this on Tuesday's live stream. John Daniels, one of the things that he pointed out on the show on Monday was that Rougned Odor still has minor league options.
Right. Let me ask you this. If you're John Daniels and you're Jeff Bannister right now, Howard, and there's 25 men right now on that Texas Rangers offense, or Texas Rangers team, okay? And I talked about this morning too. I am taking, I believe, and maybe you can doubt me if you want, and you'd be right too. I still think Ronald Guzman is going to be a good player in the major leagues. I don't think he's going to be a great player, but I think he's going to be a good player in the major leagues. I want him. And I want Elvis Andrus at shortstop, right? Like those 2 players. And I want Nomar Mazara on my team. And I'm taking the other 22 guys, and I'm done. There is not one player on the Texas Rangers that I am interested in. I would tear that whole thing down to the bottom. You're never beating Houston this year or next year. They have no chance of that, and they don't have a chance of beating Seattle or the Angels either. If I am the Rangers, I am all the way down. Keep Mazara, keep Andrews, or maybe trade Andrews if you can. Keep Ronald Guzman, and I am out on the rest of the players. Anybody that I could get anything for, I'm done. That pitching staff, look, you see
terrible.
Who's this guy starting tonight? I can't believe they called the guy up that's 0-5 with a 5 to start tonight. Is that right?
Oh, Yohander Mendez?
Who is that?
He'll still be better than Matt Moore. He'll still be better than Matt Moore.
Can't believe Matt Moore.
Oh, Matt Moore. There you go. There's another Rays prospect that got crazy hype.
He did. That's true.
Yeah, I would say, listen, Odor, done. Beltry, done. Profar, not living up to the hype. Chu is having a good, solid season, but,
But it's over. He's on
it's
the
over
back
for
end.
him.
Yeah.
DeShields has been, kind of, and Joey Gallo. I mean, Joey Gallo is,
I
again,
would start all over again if I was them. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's perfectly fine if they did. I'd understand it. They have a great farm system. They have an international prospect that they just signed to. But the Rangers, probably one of my best calls all season long was the Rangers being one of the worst teams in baseball. That was one. And I put my money where my mouth was on that one. So
how did you put your money where your mouth was there, Craig?
I can't reach it. It's over there.
What is it? What is it?
It's a ticket.
Oh, and what was the I don't need to know the amount. I want to know what the wager was.
Under 76.5 wins.
Under 76.5 wins. Okay. Did you get good odds on that?
Even money.
Oh, yeah.
You know, over-unders are even money with the totals.
Oh, yeah. There you go. All right. Well, there you go. Congratulations.
I mean,
Congratulations
if it
on
hits,
the Rangers sucking.
If it hits, it would be money-wise, it would be the equivalent of where is it? Like a lifetime subscription to Fantasy Alarm. How about that? For the playbook.
Lifetime subscription to Fantasy Alarm's playbook, dude. That's priceless. Sorry.
What I'm saying is that you could get Fantasy Alarm's playbook at such a good price that you literally would have to buy it every single year for the rest of your life. That's how much I spent on this. So it tells you that there's a good value in buying Fantasy Alarm playbook.
Look at you go. Look at you go. Oh, Jeff Groten throwing out the question, will Ryan Rua ever show up?
No.
He also cites that Miguel Sano is killing him.
Miguel Sano has been a monster fantasy bust.
I'm looking through this list of busts and overhyped prospects, and this is actually pretty entertaining. Let's see. Walker Buehler
Buehler's good.
Would have probably gone for more than Lois Sega. Why don't you let me finish, dude?
Walker Buehler, I'm going to tell you right now, when we look back, if this guy Lois Sega pitches well, will not come close to what Lois Sega will go for this weekend, and it will not even be close in fab budget. Not even.
I mean, I'll dive in and I'll look and see.
We're going to have to go back and look
I'm in.
after
You're
this
going to
week.
see how much.
Now, if he gets bombed this week, then obviously there's nothing to talk about. But I'm going to assume he'll do well tonight against Tampa, and then we'll have some fun with this next Tuesday.
Okay.
What's more likely to happen? Lois Sega to have a good game tonight, or Hanley Ramirez to get signed by a baseball team?
Oh, easily Lois Sega having a great. You got a better chance of Lois Sega throwing a no-hitter tonight, okay, than you do of Hanley Ramirez signing on with a team and having any remote fantasy value.
He should go where Manny went, to Korea or whatever, and play for a few years. He'll do very well there.
Yeah. He'll do the KBO, man. You don't get more hitter-friendly than the KBO.
He should go.
Oh, look at this. More raised for hype. I love this. You ready? Carl Crawford.
He was great.
Upton.
Listen,
we're just talking about the hype, dude.
I know, but the hype met the production. The hype met the production on those players. Oh, not on Upton, but on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did it match it on BJ Upton?
No. But Carl Crawford was a top 5 fantasy pick for years, man, and he was phenomenal. 60 steals. Come on, you can't put him in that category. But yes, he was hyped.
How about Shohei Ohtani as a big bust?
Shohei Ohtani has been a bust in fantasy. I mean, depending on how you were able to use him, absolutely.
Oh, that was brutal. I made the mistake when I did the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational, right? And I spaced that it was a weekly league. I was like, no, there's no way that we could have like a brand new multi-league, like thousands of fantasy experts in there, and that we would have weekly roster moves. So I guess I just blocked that out. I drafted Shohei Ohtani in a weekly league. That, my friend, is trash.
Yeah, it's only because it wasn't a bad choice. It was just bad because of the format. By the way, there's a lot of people in that. I mean, there's an overall contest, like for the top winner. I don't know if
I'm out of that.
You know where I am out of everyone?
Losing to Greg Jewett of Fantasy Alarm.
No.
Are you winning?
Third.
Well, I'm gonna assume you're at the top of the heap here, Craig, because you wouldn't ask the question if you weren't.
Third place.
You wouldn't be sitting there in dead last, being like, "Hey, you know where I am right now?"
Greg Jewett's pretty good, but he fell a little bit. Greg did. Fell down a little. He's got knocked down. This guy, Frank Stample, overtook him.
Who's Frank Stample?
He's from the Fantasy Network.
Oh, yeah. I don't know him. I don't know him. Let's see. Who else do we have?
I read Greg Jewett's closer chart, by the way.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, it's really good. Very well
Dude
done.
knows his relievers. Absolutely.
He's good.
Absolutely. That's why I had Bowden go ask Kevin Cash about Diego Castillo.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, there you go. See, I got that like Craig Jewett. It's so funny because he's East Coast and I'm out here, and like it never fails. I get like that 3 or 4 a.m. like Facebook message from him, and it's just a player's name, and and it's always like some obscure reliever. So I'm like, okay, I could take a look at that.
Yeah, he's doing excellent. I haven't dug in on what's happened with him. I'll guess that there's been some injuries or something because he dropped a little bit, but he's still in contention. It's there's 3 of us right now that are at the top. But yeah, for the overall, I'm third out of everybody.
Who's tops in the overall? Go ahead, tell me.
I don't know. Someone's number 1, someone else is number 2, and I'm number 3. I have no idea who.
You'll always be number 2 to me, Craig.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about a couple of other things going around Major League Baseball right now. Speaking of waiver pickups, Ketel Marte. Like
Good
all
name.
of a sudden, this
Good
kid.
Name. Yeah, here we go.
This kid's doing everything that Todd Zola said he was going to do 3 years ago.
Todd Zola's not having a great year, Howard. He is not having a great year. Did I ever tell you my Todd Zola story from last year? Let me tell it to you before I get to Ketel Marte. So I performed well in Tout Wars for two years before I jumped into the NL. And so I was very intimidated jumping into Tout Wars NL because there's a lot of, like you did with Labor, there's a lot of really good names of people who were in there. So I went back and I looked at Todd Zola's team from 2016 and thought, because he won. And I thought, okay, this is the way to build the team. So I built the team kind of around his theory, and I finished in last place in 2017, and Todd Zola finished a half point ahead of me. And then this year, I went against Todd Zola. I'm like, that's it. He got lucky that one year. I'm going against Todd. Todd's all the way at the bottom this year, and I'm all the way at the top. So I did the right thing this year, finally. I got it right.
Oh, man. I am still...
Ketel Marte, yeah.
Marte. Let's talk Ketel Marte.
Ketel Marte, I said in March that you can't look into his contract extension because I don't think it means anything. And then I was stupid enough to grab him in 2 leagues. So in 1 league, I have no choice. In the league we're playing in, you and I in the NL, I have him. He's come alive. I dropped him in the host league, 12-team league. I'm going to try to pick him back up this week, simply because he can steal bases. That's a very big asset right now at the shortstop position. You look around, there isn't anyone sitting out there on the waiver wire to pick up. It looks like Arizona's starting to score more runs at Chase Field. If that is the case, I think Marte becomes an asset the rest of the way. If he could get himself back into the leadoff spot, if that can happen, I know they have John Jay there now, but if they can get him up there, that would really change his value quite considerably. I don't know if it'll happen, but he needs to be back owned, I think, in leagues.
Would you drop Asdrubal Cabrera for Ketel Marte? Cade Peterson wants to know.
Maybe. If you're looking for runs and steals, yes. If you're lacking in home runs and runs driven in, no. Okay.
Oh, look at that. Now there's a name thrown around. I love this. This was a great topic for today because we've mixed like the busts and then the overhyped prospects a lot. Mm-hmm. So like all of a sudden this is like a This Is Your Life, and all of a sudden like names that are just coming up randomly here. So I'm going to give a shout out to James McGriff for the DeJuan Brazelton call, who was picked over Mark Teixeira.
He was not overhyped. He was in fantasy. It's a great team, but he was not overhyped in fantasy. Stop it. Tim Beckham is another name. He was a very high pick.
Oh yeah, he was. Oh, he's been killing it for Baltimore, right? Oh no.
I don't think he's done.
What about overhyped Yoenis Cespedes?
Yoenis Cespedes.
Actually, he wasn't saying that he was overhyped. He just wants to know what his value is right now. But I remember watching that video of the showcase doing his workout.
Him jumping on the beach.
Yeah.
I personally still love Cespedes, but he's just getting hurt all the time. I don't know what to say. He'll be back at some point when he's on the field. He'll be great, but he can't stay on the field, man.
He'll be great for like 2 weeks until his next DL.
He's so good when he plays. He's so good, but
yeah,
he's just been hurt a lot.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Big fan. Let's see, does anybody have any more for us? Nope, not yet. But I can only imagine that people are going to start. Oh, look, dropped Asdrubal Cabrera for Alan Hansen yesterday with the Longo News. I mean, listen, Cabrera, see, it's so funny, man. I look at Cabrera in a very similar fashion that I looked at Jed Lowry. Like, I loved what was going on for the first 2 months, but I had zero faith in this being sustainable. Like, it was so funny. Like, somebody came to me and they were like, did I talk about this on Tuesday? Somebody came to me about Jed Lowry and they were like, do you think somebody just dropped Jed Lowry in my league? Do you think he rebounds and he gets back to doing what he was doing? And I was like, why would you even think that? Like, take a look at what Jed Lowry has done for his career, and then you tell me, do you think that Jed Lowry is capable of sustaining what he did in April and May? No, definitely not. And I kind of feel like it was the same thing with Cabrera. Now, obviously, the losing culture in Flushing is a big deal as well because nobody's hitting on that team.
And Bruce isn't right, and Frazier's been out, and so is Cespedes. So I don't really put Cabrera and Lowry in the same conversation because Oakland hasn't lost offensive players. But I would think that in the summer, we are in the summer, but I would think that if they do get Cespedes back and Jay Bruce is healthy and Frazier is playing well, I would think that Cabrera could have a good second half of the season. I'm not completely off him.
When do you see the Mets not having a fire sale?
You think they're gonna have a fire sale?
Oh my God, dude! They could get rid of Bruce again. Cabrera's probably got some good trade value for them at some point. Yeah, I think even Todd Frazier. Why would they want to hang on to Todd Frazier? Are they really think they're gonna rebuild around a guy like Frazier? They got David Wright waiting in the wings. Maybe David Wright will be back at some point.
I wish you would. Right? I like David Wright, but you're probably right. They're probably gonna have to. They have until the 31st. I would think that they'll be one of those teams that'll take it right up until the deadline.
It's possible. I mean, I don't really know why. I mean, I think that and it was the quote from Sandy Alderson the other day was just like the equivalent of I don't know. I just don't know what I'm doing here.
It's been really bad. I mean, the one name I need Syndergaard to come back to win any of these leagues, man. I don't know that I'll get it, but I kind of need him. He's an important piece to me.
Yeah, that second opinion, which was just like. That was not good. And again, there you go. Like,
what's the deal with that? Is he supposed to be out for another? How long? There's just no timetable. Nothing.
There's no timetable right now. I mean, it's a ligament issue in his finger. Yeah, it's a ligament issue in his finger. It's obviously affecting the grip. And he's going to have some issues here. Again, that right there jumps onto that whole. We're talking about because both you and I have talked about how many starting pitchers could go in the first round of fantasy drafts last year. The impact, though, of losing a starting pitcher when you invest that much in, I mean, that's huge. The loss of Kershaw, Thor, Mad Bum for all this time now has been
Strasburg too.
Strasburg now also. I mean, so that
Carlos Martinez.
Oh, dude. Can we agree that a lat issue is a hell of a lot more serious than everybody seems to be letting on to? Because
I'm not sure what's going on with Carlos Martinez. I don't really know.
He looks like garbage since trying to come back from this lat issue. We watched Jake Peavy's career end with the lat issue. Alex Reyes, I'm really concerned about how he recovers. Sonny Gray, he had the lat issue. Like all these guys who have, and it's not even everybody tearing it off the bone. It's just in general, it's just tears in that lat muscle. And that's been a huge, huge issue for a lot of people right now. And it's to the point where I look at, like forearm tightness as, oh, here comes Tommy John surgery. I look at a lat issue now as, I'm done with this guy. I have no interest in him whatsoever.
Yeah, it's only next year gonna make Scherzer, Kluber, Sale, Severino, I think, has to go in this conversation finally now. But it's only going to make them more valuable. In 12-team leagues, 4 pitchers are going in the first round next year.
Yeah.
Jacob deGrom, no matter where he is, probably goes in the first, second round. It's out of the first 24 picks, probably 10 pitchers. That's a guess.
Yeah, we've gone through that. Sale, Kluber, Severino, first rounders,
and Scherzer.
Scherzer. Yeah, well, yeah. How do I forget Max Scherzer? Oh,
yeah, those 4 will be first round picks. Then deGrom will go in the second round. Kershaw could still go back in that second round. We just have to see what happens when he comes back. I wouldn't write it off completely yet, but yeah, that's what we're going to see next year for sure.
Ooh, more overhyped names for you here.
Verlander, forgot about him.
Yeah, really? How is that? That dude is just, man. Everybody just
too.
ready to write off Verlander after the dip in velocity in Detroit. I mean, this dude has just.
I was ready. I thought he was finished, completely done. Completely
me too.
On that.
I want every Houston Astros pitcher from now on. Every single one. Yeah. Ooh. Oh, yeah. I got Mendo Bruce saying Nola rising. How about Aaron Nola? Love it.
Yes, Aaron Nola is a great one, too. He should be a very high pick next year also. Yeah, I mean, I'm just all in on pitching moving forward. And this is probably the last year that any of us were able to do it and get away with it because now everyone's going to do it next year.
Yeah.
So take advantage and try to win your leagues this year because we're going to have to come up with something next year.
Well, I'm going with the 0 pitcher strategy next year.
Yeah. You're going with the yeah, I don't want to throw any names under the bus, so I'll stop with that. But yeah, that was done by a couple teams. It's not working out too well.
Oh, just waiting on pitching altogether? Oh, listen, anybody who's sat there in the preseason telling you wait on starting pitching.
They're in last place.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and you know what? It's so funny too because I'm in a league with somebody who is all about waiting on starting pitching. And in this one particular draft, did not wait on starting pitching, and he's in first place right now.
Yeah, you know who I can throw under the bus because he won't get offended is Lenny. Yeah, Lenny Melnick is. We went in these drafts, and he's like, no, I always wait. I'll be fine. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't think so. Like, I really think that this is the year that. Oh no, I'll take Tanner Roark, and I'll be fine. And I'll have.
Phrases not heard
Zach
in
Godley,
the winner's
and I'll be fine, or Arrieta. And, Lenny doesn't take it personally, so I can mention his name. But, he has also, unlike most people who would still stick to their guns, like he has said now, he understands that he can't do it anymore. Like next year, it's got to be, good pitcher, back it up with good pitcher, and then attack the rest, offense, So, but we all learned. Look, I learned. I learned from my mistakes last year. I got too creative and too aggressive with some players, but I think that and we got a long way to go. But I feel pretty good about the season that I've had so far because I've been fortunate enough to not have any really serious injuries, and I did pivot a little bit.
You better knock wood somewhere, dude. Something, anything for you. That's the kiss of fantasy death, dude.
Oh, how about this? This is a great story. So I went to the Marlins game. I don't want to reveal anything, whatever, but I went to the Marlins game. They all know that I'm big in fantasy. All of them. 25 guys, 17 of them know. 5 guys don't speak English, and the other guys don't know. Okay, so I go in there the other day, and I walk in, and I'm just getting ready to do interviews. And one of them comes over to me and says, "Oh man," I'm like, "What? What's up?" He's like, "It's unbelievable, all these injuries." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Scherzer now." I'm like, "What?" What? I'm like, I grab my phone and then oh no, I'm at Strasburg. I'm like, really? Like that's what you're gonna do?
Was it Lewis Brinson? Did Lewis Brinson say that to you?
No, it was not Lewis Brinson. Again, 17 guys know. 6 guys don't speak English, and 2 don't care. Brinson would be the don't care.
Oh, okay. Well, it's because he's taking a beating probably on like Twitter and everything like that.
Lately, a little bit.
What's that?
Been a little bit better.
Well, what are you gonna do? All right, a couple of overhyped names here. So, nothing to do. 0-1-2-3. Moncada was too overhyped for him.
Fair.
Yeah, definitely fair.
Absolutely.
I love these names here. How about let's dig a little deeper. Aside from Jason Hayward, who was Bryce Harper before there was a Bryce Harper.
And Jason Hayward delivered the goods in his first year.
Yeah. And then subsequently crapped all over your fantasy team.
He did deliver the fantasy goods in
that
first year. He did. He had a home run on opening day. Wherever you took him, that season played out the way you thought. After that, it was over. But the first year did.
So is that thing you do, is that his walk-up music? Is he like the ultimate one-hit wonder?
He was the Wonders. Yeah.
The Oneaters? As in, I wonder what happened to the Oneaters?
Right.
Todd Van Poppel. How about that name?
Yeah,
that Burrell.
That doesn't equate really to fantasy unless you were playing in the 80s in a keeper league.
Yeah.
If you were, then yes, that definitely applies. As we close this out, okay?
Yeah.
Would you like to give me? Would you like me to give you the single most overhyped prospect player in history, he was on the Yankees. Number one all time. Mic drop. Mic headset off. Hit end on the live stream. And we end it there, and there's no disagreement.
Are you gonna say Brian Taylor?
No, Brian Taylor got in a fight and got hurt.
Yeah.
Tell me when you give the people a chance on the
Okay,
content.
here you go, guys. There you go. Craig's gonna tell you also
the most overhyped player.
Almost overhyped.
In fantasy, also I had him. In reality, on the Yankees, all time. All time. I'm going to give him a chance here. In the meantime, people are talking about Trevor Story, 1 month and then meh. Oh, stop. Trevor Story is a monster and a star and one of the most underrated players in fantasy.
What about Carlos Santana? What are your thoughts on him?
I switched the NL, probably the reason why.
Yeah.
All right, do we give up?
I guess so. Nobody's answering here, and we're at 10:01 my time, so I got to get out of here, dude.
Drum roll. Here we go. Hideki Irabu.
Oh, yeah, the fat toad. I mean,
all time. Am I wrong? All time.
Well, I mean, I don't think Irabu was any more hyped than Keuchel was, and he was atrocious.
Oh, get out of here. Hideki Irabu?
They were following
him on the elevator with the camera. Come on. Tell me. Hideki Irabu, man.
Listen, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. You know why? Because if I don't give it to you, you're going to whine and cry about it on every live stream that we do from here on out. So I will give that to you.
I had Hideki Irabu on my team.
That doesn't surprise me.
All right, goodbye. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. All right, that's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for the questions. Thank you very much for the overhyped players. You can tweet more overhyped players to me and Craig at Craig Mish on Twitter, at RotoBuzzGuy for me. Happy to go through this. Would love to hear some nice old school names. For John and Pemba, that wonderful producer that you don't see but you sometimes hear, he says good night and goodbye. And for me and Craig, we're out of here.